There we go. I figured it out. Well, good morning again. I hope that was helpful. This idea of not interfering in the lives of others, but rather trusting in God, in creation, to care for them. This is actually what Scott was talking about finally a family coming to the end of the rope where you just realize that you can't fix your loved one. And you have to say, these are the consequences of your present behavior. And in this case, the consequences are we can't be physically with you. And I've seen it work many times where that's actually the catalyst for change. That when we stop supporting the destructive behavior, and we stop what they always used to call enabling. I think they still do call it that. It's difficult though, because we actually think that we are responsible, and if that we step out of the way, oh my goodness, something bad could really happen. Well, this is one of the things we're going to talk about this morning. This morning we're talking about taking our turn, talking about the principle of self-support. And this this principle is it's really the basis for responsible living. And the idea is that I want to carry my own weight. I want to do the things that I can do. I want to take care of those things that are my responsibility, but also I do not want to forget that when I need help, I need to ask for it. So asking for help is not intended to be, an avoidance of our own responsibility. But actually what it does is it allows others to give service to us when we need it. So the principle is well documented in the seventh tradition in the recovery programs, and it says that we'd be self-supporting, declining outside contributions. And the idea of self-support is we do the things that we can do. We don't avoid, we just do the things that we can do. And but also being self-supporting means coming together as one. So self-support, on the one hand, it speaks to me personally. It speaks to me personally about I need to contribute the things in life that are mine to contribute, that I need to give, we can just call it my fair share. Give my fair share. Now, being self-supporting does not mean giving more than my fair share. Actually, it turns out that when we give more than our fair share, we're actually cheating someone else out of their responsibility. And of course, a lot of times they may not look at it that way. In my own life, I come from years ago, kind of a long tradition of figuring out a way to get other people to do for me what I was supposed to be doing for myself. And this was not in my best interest. And of course, it's clear to see that it's not in the best interest of the community or really of our families or anybody else. So I'll tell you a story. I had a recurring dream. You may have heard the story before, but as I always say, if you've heard it before, just shut up. You need to hear it again. So I had this recurring dream, and it keeps coming to me over and over again. And the dream was, I'm going to court. I hate that. I'm going to court. And I know I've done something. The beginning of the dream, the guilt is in me. I know I've done something. I'm going to court. And I get there, and I go up to the table with my attorney, and I notice that my attorney is me. And then the prosecutor comes in, and the prosecutor is me. And the judge comes in, and we get up. It's me. The jury is seated, 12 of me. And then the gallery fills up. And the gallery are all of my friends and family. And the trial is very short in the dream. The prosecutor, who is me, lays out all of my crimes and really has no mercy whatsoever for me. And then my defense attorney justifies and rationalizes all of the stuff. So I have on one side, I have me talking about how bad I am. And on the other side, I have me saying, but it's not my fault. And then the judge, of course, gives it to the jury, and they come back very quickly with the verdict of guilty. And then the judge sentences me to an indeterminate length of imprisonment below the jail and take him there right now. So they take me downstairs, put me in a cell, and the cell has just this tiny little window in it. And I'm peering out into the hallway through this tiny little window, and all of the gallery, my friends and family, are out there, and they're saying, "Come out, come out." And I'm saying, "Oh, I don't have the key. I can't open the door. I can't get out." And they're saying, "Come out." And then my dead mother appears at the front of the door, and she says, "The key is in your heart." And it is. And I open the door and I step out. I take one step to step out into the hallway to join with my friends and family, and I trip on the threshold. And I'm falling in slow motion. But they catch me. And they bear me up and carry me into the light. That's the general story. It happens a different way, kind of different at different times, but that's the story, that's the dream. Real dream. So I came to realize over time that this was, dreams, all symbols, and this is like not subtle. This one's like beating me over the head. That here I am going through life, and it's like, to me, it's like going to court. And I've got these two opposing sides, neither one of which is seeing the real truth. One is making excuses for behavior. The other is saying the behavior is an indelible stain upon my soul and can never be corrected. The judge and the jury are quick to say, yes, guilty, guilty, guilty. And this is really, we know pretty much that this subconscious, not just the conscious guilt we carry around, but the subconscious guilt that continues to plague us is really the cause of our suffering. And so the cell, of course, represents, to me, it's very clear, the cell represents the darkness of self-centeredness. Then I've got this little tiny little aperture where I can actually see out and see some other people. But mostly, I'm surrounded in this darkness. And this is my experience from living in this self-centeredness. And the self-centeredness, and we're going to talk about this in grown-up Bible class today, is the self-centeredness comes from this thing that is laid out at the story of the Garden of Eden, when Eve is tempted and eats of the fruit of the tree of knowledge of good and evil, and Adam likewise. And this is where it comes from, because that tree of knowledge of good and evil is the tree of duality, of good and bad, and it's the tree of judgment. It's the tree of I judge good, I judge bad, and it's the tree of separation. So our condition, our human condition, our human suffering comes from the fact that we think we're separate from God. And if we're separate from God, then separate from the rest of creation, separate from other people in our lives. And so here we are in the cell, in this dark cell, and other people, our loved ones, some of them actually somewhat enlightened, are asking us to come out and join them. Be with us in the light. I remember Frank always used to say, you know, when you live in the alley in the shadows, the people who live in the light really can't come into the alley to get you. They have to stay out in the light so that you can see that it's possible to be in the light. But you have to walk out of the alley. So this is the deal. I have to come out of the cell. We have to come out of the cell of self-centeredness and join with... Now, many of our friends and family are also in the cell. I mean, in their minds, right? But in reality, in truth, they're all in the light. And I need to make a decision to come out of the darkness into the light to join them. And when I do, here's what happened. When I do, sometimes I make a mistake. So I trip on the threshold and I begin to fall. But they catch me. And so here is really the full idea of this self-support. That I take action, I do the things that I need to do, I carry my own weight, but I allow others to help me when I need it. And I accept it. I take that help. Well, so self-support, it takes some discernment to figure out what's my part and what are other people's part. You know, what am I supposed to give? What are other people supposed to give? And sometimes, well, I'm just going to say that self-support means just me doing mine, right? So if I get the idea that I am responsible for the well-being of others, I will tend to interfere in their lives. And this is one of the things Course in Miracles says quite clearly. It says, have empathy, understanding, love, but above all, do not interfere. And I remember years ago, I had a family member who really was doing badly, and I was thinking I was fresh into, you know, this recovery, and I'm thinking, you know, I've got this message to give to the world, and I want to give this message to my loved one, and you know, I want them to get better. And this woman who had been in Al-Anon for years, she said to me, you have interposed yourself between your loved one and God, and you need to get out of the way. And so and we learn, you know, we were supposed to have learned, and many people do learn to be of service from the time that they're young. They're taught that this is just a community value, and it's what we do. But I mean, I never got the message. But then I get in this. I come to Narcotics Anonymous, and they give me the message that the only way to have a fulfilled life is to be of service. So now, man, I want to be of service everywhere that I can. And this is part of being self-supporting. It's giving the service that is mine to give. So, but it's not doing every job. It's not doing everything for everybody. It's not financially taking care of everybody else who should actually be taking care of themselves. So we can get into patterns, though, especially if the relationship is one which a special relationship where we feel really close to the person. We keep coming to their rescue over and over again. And this is not proper service. Proper service is doing the right thing for the right reason at the right time. And so the right thing means what's going to be the most beneficial. Many times, the most beneficial thing is to give them to God. Make them a gift. See it in your mind. See this person who you're really worried about, who you keep rescuing. See them wrapped up in birthday paper with a big bow on them, and just set them on that altar in your mind, or however you want to vision that. Give them to God, and then stop interfering with their life. We talked a little bit about this last week about it's such a dysfunctional relationship when we go around rescuing our loved ones, fixing stuff for them over and over again, but then we stay mad at them. We keep rescuing them, but we're mad at them. We're always remembering. We're full of resentment. We're saying, when are they going to grow up? When are they going to get this? When are they going to stop doing this? But we keep rescuing them. We need to flip it around. We need to stop being mad at them. Just stop being mad at them. Again, we read that there is no justification, no real justification for this anger. That what we need to do is love them, but stop rescuing them. Allow them to feel the consequences of their action. So, and this goes along with the idea of the self-support matches up with this principle of teaching a man to fish. I mean, we've heard it a million times. If you give a man a fish, he'll eat for a day. If you teach him to fish, he eats for a lifetime. So our job now, and this is really important, as not just individually, but as a community, that what we want to do is, instead of just giving these little stipends, we need to give the ability for people to take care of themselves. That actually will cost more money to begin with, but eventually it won't. Okay, this was a message from the Democratic Party. Sorry. I don't know what happened. I got lost there for a second. So, all right. So, self-support. Carry my own weight. I do what I can do, but I also want to vision myself standing shoulder to shoulder with my brother, so that we carry and what Jesus said is, my yoke is light. And so here's the idea about being yoked to our brothers. And it's very interesting the way this works. We would never know it today because we don't have, we don't associate with oxen. But they knew in the past that when you actually yoked two together, that you got more power than just the two of them. So that there was synergy resulted from the yoke itself, right? So this is the vision that we can have in our minds as we interact with others, is that I'm coming together with others for a common purpose, a purpose of service, and whatever the organization is that we're involved in, we take their purpose, right? Whatever, if it's a community organization, we look to see what the purpose of the organization is. If in recovery we have a purpose of carrying a message, we think about that, we put that in our minds. Our purpose is to carry the message, and let me be yoked, connected to my brother, to my sister, so that we can pull this cart of an agenda more easily. And see, then my service then becomes a shared service, which really, to me, is shared joy. But it also means that in order to do that, we have to go back to this first principle we talked about, which is releasing my own agenda. If I'm working in an organization, I must believe somewhat in the organization. So if I'm actually going to do service for them, it'd be a good idea for me to get on board with them. And when I say that, I'm talking about to say, let my intention be the intention, whatever the organization's intention is. Let me release my personal agenda and go forward. Not to say that being part of an organization doesn't mean that you just go along without questioning what's going on. I mean, yes, together we can change purposes, we can change focus. But once I've decided to enter into this course of action, that purpose needs to be my purpose. And to move forward like that without, there can be a lot of intrigue going on in these organizations. So then the second thing is, I need to really decide what my strengths are, what my gifts are, what my abilities are, and give from those things. I want to give service according to the pattern that was created in me. So whatever my talents and gifts may be, that's what I want to give in service to whatever organization it is that I'm involved in. So this comes back around to the idea of what do I give? What I do is I give what is mine to give. I give of myself. Rob, could you go pull that door shut, please? I'm sorry. So, and how do I change my life? First of all, I don't. Giving proper service means I do the same things I'm doing today. I do the same things I'm doing today. I get up the same way as I got up yesterday. I go to work. I go do my community service. I go to my meetings. I go do whatever it is that I normally did, but I only change one thing: my focus. My focus when I go to work is to be of service. My focus is not to get a paycheck. Paycheck's coming. If I show up, the paycheck's coming. If I go in there to think about being of service to those around me, something interesting might happen. I actually might end up getting more than a paycheck. I know for sure I'm going to get more fulfillment. I know for sure that I'm going to actually feel like I'm part of something greater than myself. This is very important. The ability to feel a part of. And this is what comes from self-support. Because then we are contributing. We're contributing to something, and therefore we feel as if we belong more. Because when I am concerned only for my own well-being and what I can get, I am locked in that dark cell of self-centeredness. And when I turn my mind around and say, what I'm going to do is I'm going to be of service, I'm going out into the light, and I'm going to give of myself in every situation, that's when the fulfillment happens. That's when I become one with my community. That's when I become